points about what's happening in Iraq. In Erbil, according to reports, there may have been an explosion. Well, it's already nighttime for them, already heading into May 24th, right? We're still on the 23rd. Explosions and a fire are being reported in Ekomala over there in Erbil, a key area for Iraq. So let's get into the details. Let's see what's happening in the world. But as we were saying a few moments ago, we said, hey, pay attention to what might happen in the coming days. Because look, there's going to be a phone call today between Netanyahu and Trump. And I have no doubt that at any moment we'll have information about this call, right? I want us to go to Erbil, to this area. Northern Africa has several characteristics. Northern Iraq has several characteristics. Because the Kurds live here, who oppose the Ayatollah regime and who are constantly fighting. Remember, Israeli planes have passed through here to attack Iran. And also, there are sometimes rebel groups there that can even launch some kind of attack towards different places. I mean, there are a number of things there that catch my attention and that, they're key to understanding how these conflicts are happening. Look, as for this explosion, what do we know so far? Is there any extra report about this explosion? About what? Thank you. Okay. Okay, so we still don't know. I mean, we still don't have information about what's happening on this topic. I mean, let's see. Do we know who's causing the explosion? Any opinions? Yes. Let's get into the details. But, I mean, do you have any opinion about what might be happening? Iran, I'll just say it. I mean, Iran is the issue, right? They're the ones who would be carrying out the operation. In that sense, let's get into the details because there's more information. While we're here talking, hit the like button. Because as you know, we're updating the information as things happen. We're live. So, this is where the story stands. It's obviously developing, right? This whole situation. Look, here we have more images, right? Of, fires already. It says the following. Let's bring it into focus. It says the following. Iran has just attacked bases. Careful. Let's see. They are attacking bases in the northwest of Erbil. There are 4 ballistic missiles. Pay attention to that. As the information develops, it keeps surprising us. Here are more images. This is another one. 2 people are reported to have lost their lives, 17 injured. These, would also be actions taken by Iran. I imagine it's against the Kurds. Is it true? It could be. There are no details. During the ceasefire, Iran has never stopped attacking Kurdish opposition in northern Iraq. According to reports, this would be the 71st attack. The only surprising thing is the ballistic missiles. Also, they report that there are already drones present at this moment. Listen,
Sorry, here it goes. Thank you for watching the video.
I mean, that's basically what they're reporting. Obviously, I don't understand their language, but here it is. Here, I already have the, a
dub, right?
And according to what they're reporting, inside of this situation is that the
peace agreement that it has.
There wouldn't be any issue involving the Kurds, nor any issue with Hezbollah either. So we're probably going to be hearing Iranian drones, even missiles striking. And Iraq is silent, right? I mean, Iraq isn't saying anything at all. The Kurds have already said several times that they'd be willing to go and attack and put an end to the Ayatollah's regime. But no. Well, at first, do you remember that Trump wanted to help the Kurds by giving them weapons? And then a couple of days later, something happened. No, it was never exactly clear what happened, but something happened. And suddenly he said, no, not the Kurds. And then things cooled off. I don't know what the Kurds might have demanded or how things went, but this was also cancelled, right? So we have, as a first move, the way I see it right now, I don't think it will influence the possible agreement they're going to make. Iran, the United States, that's it. Because I was going to say Israel, but well, Israel isn't being invited right now. That's why the call is going to happen. First, Trump will decide what he's going to do, and then apparently he'll let Netanyahu know. And I guess to gauge Netanyahu's reaction too, right? Netanyahu is currently with the Security Council, with his cabinet, to decide on option 1, what are we going to do with this? And option 2, what are we going to do? I mean, if Trump tells us, well, you're on your own, or if he says we're not going to attack until a certain date, I'll admit I don't know. But in that case, we'll need to read between the lines, since I expect what they say will be very vague. Well, very superficially. I mean, I don't think they're going to release the full report in that sense, right? I mean, that's it. That also catches my attention. Now, let's also move on to other points, to other topics as well, which are important too. There's just, well, another piece of information there before we move on to the other topic, because it's just that I'm leaving out information at this moment, and I got a bit distracted here because things are happening that, well, as you know, our idea here with you is that once we're live, we're live. Well, actually, we're basically in news mode all day, but when we're live, it doesn't matter if the news changes. We talk about it and it changes. I mean, if the circumstances, suddenly change and what was happening isn't happening anymore, right? Well, we just adapt it to the news, right? I mean, today it's happening where, let's say, we're totally, completely always analyzing the information, how it's developing, and we're analyzing it here together with you, right? So this is happening right now, right? Things are developing. And I think that's how the weekend is going to be. Honestly, why? Why? Because they want to fix everything they can or mess it up from now until Monday. Well, really until Sunday, right? For our Sunday, which is Monday for Asia, right? So look, there are several facts here. Let me tell you the following. This is very important, urgent. Look, it says the United States and Iran are reportedly nearing an agreement, which we've discussed. But here are some previously unknown details. Certain details have been leaked. They're going to include a reopening, gradual reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz will be opened, yes, but gradually it's all about buying time. Number 2, there will be a commitment to discuss the dilution or handover of highly enriched uranium in Iran. In other words, it's not that they're agreeing to hand over the uranium, but at least they're going to discuss either how to dilute it or how to hand it over. Careful, this is a very important issue and it's like a lose-lose or a win-win. I want to make that clear. See it however you want, right? Those who have a very pro-Iran narrative, because there are some YouTubers like that, and it's not that they're super pro-Iran, but it's strange because they defend a regime that is literally, well, super terrible, right? But that doesn't mean that the US regime or government is cool either, because they also have a lot of things to answer for. But you say, hey, how can you defend the indefensible, right? But from my point of view, it would be a lose-lose situation, right? Both sides must make sacrifices so there's no trouble before the World Cup, right? To start with. What does a World Cup mean? Consider this. The United States would relax the Strait of Hormuz blockade and allow some sanction relief. So, even if Hormuz is opened, Iran still can't sell. In other words, Iran has the Strait of Hormuz closed. So there's the United States. They closed the Strait of Hormuz to the Iranians. So both sides have the other in check. Right? So Iran says, okay, I'll open it a little, but you also open it a little. Then Iran will be able to sell. And with that, gradually have a bit of income. Right? And the Gulf countries too. The United States would also begin a phased unfreezing of Iran's assets. That is, little by little, it would start releasing the Iranian funds it has frozen. Yes, that's a very controversial issue. Both parties would be close to a memorandum of understanding to extend the ceasefire. But well, that's the issue. That shows you that Iran is playing its game, and so is the United States. But in that game, they agree on a solution that benefits both of them, right? For the time being. The one who is harmed, the one I think is not going to like it at all, is Netanyahu, right? Because he ends up in a somewhat distant position, right? A bit isolated, don't you think? For well, not being taken into account for this agreement and all that. There will be reactions, but not immediately. I don't think we'll see them until after the World Cup. Like many things, a lot will be on hold until then. That will also be interesting. Or maybe not, right? Maybe not. There are also a lot of twists here. Let's move on to other important matters. Well, moving on to other topics, right? Ukraine reportedly launched an attack on a key area for... It's very curious. And we'll start to see more of these kinds of images. This would be, for example, at the port of Novorossiysk, which would be another case. It's not about drones. As you can see, not only will the number of drones in their attacks not decrease, it will increase exponentially. So faced with this, the calculation that Russia has to make is whether to continue with the conflict despite what it will cause and the effect it will have on the Russian population in terms of weakening, right? But at the same time, they will also have to calculate what the future of a possible agreement is. Look, there are already huge areas of Ukraine that are about to be recovered, right? I'll show you a brief example of what's happening here. Here we're looking at a series of images, right? Let's see if we can, move it a little farther over here. All these images that start circulating showing how they operate. This route we're seeing here looks reversed because the map is upside down, not the way it should be displayed. We'll put it correctly right now. It's this one, look. There it is. This is all of southern Ukraine that reaches all the way to Crimea. If you look, it's a huge highway. On that huge highway, supplies arrive to certain areas that Russia controls within Ukraine. It's been months since supplies have arrived. Supplies are running out. And this is going to take a complete turn. Kherson could be the first large area liberated by Ukraine. That is, Ukraine could liberate Kherson at any time. Well, most likely, they are completely closing Russia's land corridor. Because it's easy for them. All the cargo trucks that come through there are attacked. It's that simple. A cargo truck arrives and gets attacked. There are plenty of drones and you can't protect the entire road. It's impossible. So cargo trucks come in, they get attacked again and again, so supplies don't arrive. And when supplies don't arrive, the area is easily lost. End up like you're under siege, right? It says Ukraine has completely closed the land corridor between Russia and Crimea, which limits Russia's ability to supply everything in the Kherson area, which is an occupied zone through the long route via Crimea itself. So that whole southern region could eventually be taken or recovered if supplies aren't coming in. There's no way to defend an area like that. Just imagine that, right? So this is a major turning point, right? What is happening with this complete closure of the land corridor between Russia and Crimea is limiting Russia's ability to supply the entire Kherson area, but also to supply Crimea itself. To make it clearer, let's show the map of this area, right? Give me a second. Let's go analyze the road. It runs from Russia, which is over here, goes through all of this, and sends supplies. Let's go to the different points where the Russians are and toward Crimea. Yes. So this route is blocked here. Drones and drones and drones keep coming, and it's constantly being watched by drones. Today, when a cargo truck comes, I don't know, it's attacked. All the cargo trucks are simply attacked. Because of this, well, the chances of this area falling are getting higher and higher. But besides this, there are also attacks happening in other areas of Russia, already inside Russia itself, right? Now, because we're talking about the Crimea region, which has also had a huge controversy today, because an area used by the Russians for manufacturing drones were destroyed, according to the reports, right? He reports Russia's reaction as always. No, nothing was destroyed. It was just a dormitory in that area. I don't know how much. Well, that's the usual. We already know that. But what the Russian military bloggers themselves are saying is that, in fact, there are increasingly intense attacks happening all over that area. There are regions where it's not just attacks anymore, right? But there are people who are simply leaving the area. The zones who are abandoning the place because they no longer feel safe. I mean, how are you going to work in a factory where you know that at any moment an attack could happen? The paranoia about drones is really intense, but there are even people who are starting to take it with a sense of humor. We've seen a lot of young people, especially Russians, laughing at the drones and watching how they crash and fall into a refinery, right? And they're already there. You know, the cell phone trend, which is something that happens all over the world too, right? I mean, it's already becoming a habit, so to speak. A habit like what we saw, for example, in Israel too, or what we've seen in Iran. I remember an image, I don't know if it was from, they were by a little lake playing the guitar, kind of a bohemian vibe, just playing there. All the explosions and gunfire were happening in the background, yet they played as if nothing was wrong. You often see strange scenes and phenomena in situations like this, right? But anyway, what else is happening with this topic? Just to start with, right? According to what the Russians themselves are reporting, they have confirmed that even though the attack on this drone factory did happen, they claim that it only affected one of the dormitories, according to what they say, right? What isn't clear is what kind of strategy Russia is going to follow to defend itself against something that is getting increasingly violent and harder to deal with, which is drone swarms. They are creating an ever-growing problem for you. And the weakening of a country like Russia is dangerous because in the end, yes, it's a major nuclear power and you don't know whose hands it might fall into. We have to remember that there are large radical Muslim groups within Russia that have grown a lot, right? And they have been having many more children for decades. So obviously that growth is also creating a problem. That also among the Russian military themselves, who have basically taken over Russian politics, and there's no sign of any change coming, right? By the way, another thing that catches my attention among all their movements is that there was an explosion. That there was an explosion inside China too, right? That caught my attention. Right now, rescue operations are underway, right? Search and rescue, in which 82 people are believed to have lost their lives. In an explosion at a mine in China, the official death toll is at least 82, according to reports today. Saturday, May 23, Chinese journalists learned about it at the site of the mine explosion. It was a gas explosion inside the coal mine in Liuzhenyu. The accident reportedly left 82 people dead and 9 missing, according to reports from the official Chinese network CCTV. The explosion occurred at 7:29 today, May 23 right now. It's already the 24th, but for them, the explosion happened today. The number of fatalities could actually be higher than what is being reported. Normally, 247 workers are employed at the mine. In fact, there were about that many people there at the time. Supposedly 201 were rescued, but later it was said that the official number of people who lost their lives was 82. So, well, the numbers are kind of strange, but at least the official one is really tough, right? especially considering what life is like in that part of the world. The reports also say that there is a group of people trapped and that the levels of carbon monoxide, a gas that is highly toxic and odorless, had exceeded the permissible limits at the mine. Some of those trapped underground are reportedly already in critical condition, according to the report. From China itself, so well, poor miners, right? The life of a miner is already very difficult. And well, now with that situation over there in China, it's a tremendous issue. We'll be following up to see how all the information develops, right? Because in the end, well, they only give out the information they want to give, right? That's also important. Let's move on to other interesting matters. All right. The report is ready on how the management of the Iran national team will be in the World Cup in Iran. According to the reports, their base will be in the Mexican border city of Tijuana. That is now confirmed. Apparently, during the World Cup that's about to start, according to what the World Football governing body FIFA says, they approved this request to move the training camp from Arizona to Tijuana. It says we will be based at the camp in Tijuana, near the Pacific Ocean on the Mexico-United States border, according to Iranian Football Federation President Mehdi Taj. He published this on his Telegram account, so he confirmed that Tijuana will be, so to speak, the training base for the Iranians. FIFA hasn't said anything about it, so we'll also wait a bit longer for more details to see if they report or update this situation. And we've already reconfirmed it, so to speak, right? But anyway, it says the total distance between us and the place where our matches are in Los Angeles is 55 minutes by flight. I mean, it takes 55 minutes to get from one point to the other. And that, well, makes Tijuana an ideal spot for them. Besides, I imagine that right now, because of the war and all that, they don't want to be resting or sleeping in the country they consider their enemy, right? So, well, that's also understandable to a certain extent, right? The point is, I don't know if they're considering how hard it is, even with help. Moving from the United States to Mexico is always slow and complicated. I mean, if you go there, it's not just a 55-minute flight, it's like an hour and a half or 2 hours doing all the paperwork. And I imagine it's even more if you're from Iran. But the fact that it's the national team and it's about soccer sports, let's hope they make it easier for them to enter. Let's say, well, I mean, with all the security protocols and everything you can imagine, right? But anyway, Mexico will then have to take responsibility for the security of that team, right? That too, I imagine, must be part of what was agreed upon, right? Well, let's move on to other important matters. Let's go to the comments as you have them. Hope everyone is well after the weekend. Sorry, but I'm being told that a report is coming in. Just let me see if I can confirm it. If not, we'll talk about it next time. Look, if something is happening, let's go into detail, right? In breaking news, there is currently a large police presence around the White House following reports of gunshots. Keep an eye on this situation. There are no more details. There is no more information. This, according to what AFP itself is already reporting, is breaking news and is still developing, right? AFP is reporting this. Well, we'll see what can be confirmed later, but pay attention to this issue. Heavy police presence around the White House after reports of gunshots. Keep a close eye on this situation. I insist. It says around, not inside the White House, right? It says around, yes, it says surrounding. So that's all the detail there is, right? They've had trouble, right, around the area for one reason or another, but they've had trouble. And well, the Secret Service has had, I think, the busiest years they've ever had. In recent times, right? That's also something important to keep in mind, right? But that's how things are. Look, that's how things are today with this whole situation. How, at the end of the day, considering what's happening and what we're seeing with U.S. security in Washington, We're living through a complicated time because I can't imagine there's ever been a precedent for a president like this in history, right? Maybe in ancient times. I don't know. But he's a very peculiar president, a president with unusual characteristics, let's say, right? There's someone out there. There's the name of a person who they say is somewhat similar in how controversial he was. But that's from another era, right? So in the media, he's a very striking character, but he doesn't generate many reactions, right? From people who suddenly aren't quite right in the head. So this could create risks. And I imagine they have a lot on their hands because if they already have a lot of work based on what we know, I think there must be much more that we don't know about, right? Things we can't even imagine. Well, all right, we'll continue in a moment because this information with that topic later on. Shh. All right, listen. Let's quickly continue with the details and the comments. A huge greeting to everyone in the community who's watching this live. Thank you so much for sharing and for hitting like, hey, we really appreciate your participation. And just so you know, we're here live all the time. We're going to keep updating, we'll keep checking. And for anything else, any detail, our contact page is there. Jose, or rather Pepe, that's pepeinvivo.com. It's in the description, pepeinvivo.com, we're there. For anything, it's not just for channel members. Big greetings to the members, to those who help us out, like Patri, like many of you who have that possibility, thank you. And to those who are subscribed, thank you very much as well. Miguel, how have you been? Big greetings. How are you, Damien? Thank you for being here. Sending you a big hello, and your comments are always very positive. Thanks also to Edgar. Big greetings. Shots fired at the White House. Exactly. Shots, as far as I know, not in the surrounding area yet. So let's stay alert to the situation. Mercedes, how have you been, Mercedes? And how are things in Tijuana? By the way, you guys are going to be the ones receiving the Iranians there, right? Cheers, Mercedes. Big greetings. I mean, you guys like over there in Tijuana, right? Not that Mercedes is going to receive this greeting. Mercedes, what's new? How huge legend? 23 big greetings. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for being here. Perla works a lot. Pepe, thank you very much, Perla. And yes, let's say we're hard workers. Definitely, right? We're really happy to be here, honestly. And above all, when it happens, there are calmer days. There are days when I'm told, today is a busy day. They tell me, yeah, today is a busy day. Fridays, Fridays are even when we relax. Sometimes, right? The news doesn't let you relax, does it? I was working out. I go out to exercise. And Astrid tells me, I just did a broadcast. Go live right now. Because this and this happened. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. Then she said more would happen. So I said, now it's my turn, right? And so I did a broadcast on my phone. That's how we are, right? So we're doing this. And now the oldest son is also starting to get very active in keeping up with the news, right? So whenever he sees something many times, he brings it up. I already mentioned that, right? But sometimes he gets ahead, right? So he also contributes too. You all too, right? You're also in Mr. X. And many of you send us emails or messages wherever you can today. Baby. When something happens, we talk about it right away, right? So, yes, that's our career. That's our job. Annie, how have you been? Thank you so much. Hey, let's move on to another matter. Let's go to another topic. And this is a topic, for everyone who's interested, come on, let's do a special live stream. Because there's a climate alert for the United States right now and over the next few days. So if you're interested, come on over. But let's get into that topic and we'll keep updating about what's happening everywhere. Exactly. And what's happening there? Like Mercedes says, it's cold and hot in the same day. And I got sick. You've got the flu, right? I imagine. Man. Cal, I don't know if you're a fan of broths. Honestly, chicken soup with veggies and it's like you recover right away. It doesn't matter if it's hot or not. How do they make me feel better? I don't know. They just do. I don't know what it is, but they really do. And then we do this. Well, now bone broth is becoming really popular, right? But that's really what it is because you put the whole chicken in the pot and let it simmer slowly. So that same water is very nutritious. Then later on with the veggies and everything else. And well, we've definitely picked up some good habits, let's say, to take care of our voices, which is super important. Just imagine how much. And then, do you guys really think I'm quiet? Actually, no, I'm not really that quiet. So I talk a lot, right? I mean, I talk to you all a lot. So yeah, it's a heavy load all day. I really take care of my voice and everything because, well, it's a lot, right? Okay, Miguel says. PP just attacked Russia, Ukraine in Oris with an Oresnik. Did you think that was going to happen? Is there going to be a strong response? Well, yes. We'll check it right now, Miguel, and we'll be talking about it. I think if Mercedes says so, that's how it is. That here it's a Napa broth. It helps a lot. And that's about it. Well, I'll check it later. Well, let's go to the next report. If you'd like, let's go. They'll be live in just a moment. Let's go over there. Vamos para allá.